Today's Rock Newman Show is brought to you by the Pohanka Automotive Group and the MGM Grand National Harbor. All right. Live on WHUT Howard University Television, a special broadcast of the Rock Newman Show.
I'm supporting the decriminalization of marijuana.
How many dead bodies have you removed? I'm like, we don't remove dead bodies from crime scenes.
I would like to introduce to you someone who is pivotal to the future of WHUT.
The Rock Newman Show. Folks, welcome. Thank you for tuning in today. My special guest on the Rock Newman Show is legendary news anchor, true man about town, Washington, D.C., respected in the industry worldwide. His name is Jim Vance. Jim Vance, welcome to the Rock Newman Show.
Thank you, Rock. Good to be here.
Today, there is much for us to talk about. We're going to try to squeeze a lifetime in this 1 hour we have here.
Hard to do.
So let's try. Folks want to know so much about Jim Vance.
I'd like to know some more about Jim Brown. Get in there.
And so do I. Let's start here. Jim Brown grew up in. I don't know where he grew up, but Jim Vance grew up in Philadelphia. Who and what were your early influences? Early in your life, who and what had the most impact on you?
Interesting question, Rock, but not hard to answer. It was my grandfather. I consider him to be probably one of the most noble men that ever lived on this earth. My grandfather lived to 90-some years old. He was a plumber. Had his own business, had 16 kids, not a single one of whom ever went to jail, not a single one of whom ever needed welfare or the government to help them along their way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of whom got postgraduate degrees. 1, 2, 3 of two of them from right here at Howard. As a matter of fact, I remember the first time I ever came to Howard was 1952. I was 10 years old. One of my aunts had the graduation ceremony, and I came to Howard. But anyway, my grandfather was born a farmer in Port Deposit, Maryland, as a matter of fact. And moved from Port Deposit, Maryland to Ardmore, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia, when my grandmother told him, after having had, I guess, 6 of her kids, I'm not living on this farm anymore, so either I'm going or we're going. And he loved that woman, so it's like me and you, baby.
Mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
There you go. So they moved to Ardmore, and he took a job at one point at the Baldwin Automotive Works in Chester, Pennsylvania. That was back in the day of steam engines. Not many of them listening to us now will know what I'm talking about, but when you went anywhere, you had to keep the windows up because of all the soot coming from the chimney of the train. Well, grandfather came up one day in 31, right in the midst of the Depression. Was at work, came up with an idea that was useful, told his supervisor, this story is not apocryphal, it's true. Told his supervisor told his boss, and the supervisor got a raise and a promotion. My grandfather got diddly. In 1931, that man quit his job and started his own business. Now, you know, as does probably anybody in our audience, what a challenge and what a chore that is now to start your own business. Imagine 1931, you have 15 of your 16 kids, and you quit a paying job, which was the most valuable thing that any man could have, white or black, especially a black man. In 1931, you quit your job to start your own business. That's the kind of faith in oneself and the kind of commitment to maintaining one's integrity that I wish I had the courage to match, and I don't know very many men who do. That man has been my hero from the moment that I was born, before I knew that story and any of the other stories about him, in large part because he was the gentlest, smallest giant that I have ever known in my life, I've ever met or I've ever read about. He only stood about 5, 6, or 7. In my eyes, this man had to be 8 feet tall. Since I can remember being on this earth, when I wasn't in school, I was at work. And one of the things I remember most about him, I know that Kathy, my wife, and others used to like, what is wrong with you? I can't lay in the bed in the morning. When I wake up, I have to get up. That's from him. Because in his house, when you woke up, if you could walk to the bathroom, then you could go to work or you could go to school or something. Nobody ever lay in bed in my grandfather's house. If you can get up in the morning, then get the hell out of here and go be productive, be useful or something like that. So anyway, that's what he's my hero.
That is an incredible testimony.
And a hell of a man.
It speaks to something that someone said in Philadelphia, who was a member of the 76ers team at one point, Charles Barkley. I ain't a role model.
There you go.
Parents need to be role
There you
models.
go.
That testimony.
Remember how much trouble he got in for that?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah.
And everybody's saying, yeah, well, you are, because whether you like it or not, the kids are going to look up to you.
Yeah.
And I congratulate Charles for saying that's what the child is going to do.
Yeah.
What's your job
What are
in
you
this?
gonna
What's
do?
your
Right.
responsibility?
Right.
You turn him around. You turn his head around. What's the child know?
Yeah.
Child needs guidance. Child needs direction.
Yeah.
That's where the parent comes in.
Okay, so Philadelphia. You come through a time that is a turbulent time. We're going to get to your coming to Washington, D.C. in 1969 at WRC. But before we go there, that turbulent time I speak of, the hippie area, the Vietnam War, we had just tragedies. I'd like for you to reflect for a moment on that time. Let's start with the killing of JFK. Where were you and what impact?
I was walking across the campus at Cheney State College, as it was called then, Teachers College, 30 miles outside of Philly. As a matter of fact, I was walking across the campus with Ed Bradley on one side and a guy we call QP, Kenny Hamilton, on the other side, both of whom went on to do some wonderful things. I'll talk about that in a minute. We're walking across the campus when a guy coming the other way, I'm trying to remember his name, came by and said, hey man, somebody just shot JFK. And I have read so much, Rock, about people who were stunned and shocked and saddened and driven to tears right away on hearing those words, as it was with John's brother later on. We didn't do that. We didn't feel the loss like that. We were political, but with a focus. And the focus wasn't on presidential politics. And John Kennedy's assassination did not drive us to angst and worry and fear and concern about what's going to happen to the country now or any other kind of thing. You know what I remember even more clearly and what had more impact than that guy saying to us as he walked by, somebody just shot JFK, was Malcolm's comment the next day or next couple of days, whatever it was, when Malcolm's comment was, well, the chickens come home to roost. And I remember all the vitriol and the anger, excuse me, of most Americans that was poured on him at the time. I remember hearing that statement or reading it maybe in the black paper in Philadelphia soon after, and thinking more about that than I did about the loss of JFK. And I need to make the point, the loss of JFK was not a signal moment in my life in terms of what it did to me emotionally, but I understand historically and politically the impact of it. But at the time, we were on our way to a final in history of civilization class, which I was having trouble with. My concern was, how am I going to pass this test, as was Bradley's concern at the time. Not so much that we lost our president.
You bring up Malcolm. Kennedy was November the 22nd, 1963. I think Malcolm was February 25th, 1965, Audubon Ballroom, slaughtered. Your reaction to that?
It was 65, wasn't it?
Did I say 65?
I'm
I
thinking
meant to
of-
say 65 if I didn't.
I think I don't remember. I know
Yeah.
it's
It was 65,
A
yeah.
couple years later, and at the time, again, it was news that had an impact, but it wasn't devastating, and it wasn't devastating because in 1965 I had graduated college. I had a 4-year-old child, and I had 2, 3, 4 jobs in 1965. I was struggling to make a living, to take care of this baby, to put food on the table.
Any
and to make my-
Jamaican roots?
Sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yes.
No, it's Ardmore roots, man. You know, that was we called my grandfather Howard, and that was Howard's roots.
Okay.
But I was trying to make a living, and again, excuse me, Bach, was aware, you know, of all the different things that were happening. There were all kinds of movement in Philadelphia in terms of the struggle. But again, it was not devastating news to me. It was scary, is what it was, because I remember thinking, I haven't thought about this much in years, but I remember they weren't exactly sure who did it and why right away, and it all came to fore later on. But at the time, for some reason or another, I was kind of terrified by that, and I was wondering what's going on, and I didn't understand all the dynamics of it. I didn't understand exactly what all it meant. I knew about, Elijah and all the rest of it because, brothers were all over Philadelphia,
Sure,
man, with
sure.
the
Bean
messenger
pies.
and the
Yeah,
bean
that's right.
pies and
That's
all
right.
of that. And
Final call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the bow tie and all that whole kind of thing. But I wasn't into Elijah, nor was I, but I was more into Malcolm at that time because if you remember, Malcolm had just come back from Mecca.
Yeah.
And Malcolm had made the point, wait a minute, there's another way to look at this and maybe there's something else going on.
Sure.
And I remember being impressed with his development.
More global
with,
view.
Yeah, with the more global world view that he had. But again, like JFK, to answer your question, I wasn't devastated by that. Was concerned about it, was scared about it, was interested, but my focus was on my paycheck on Friday at that particular time, because I had a child to raise.
3 years later,
Come on.
April the 4th, 1968, Martin Luther King in Memphis.
That one was something else. Now you talk about some fear. I remember I had a job, one of my jobs at that time was as a security guard. And they put me, anyway, they told me to go down to 40th and Lancaster Avenue in the heart of the hood in West Philly and put me inside a drugstore, locked me in, and that's where I was going to be all night long. There was, as you might remember, immediate violent reaction all over the country, especially here more than any place else.
Yeah.
Police commissioner in Philadelphia at the time was one of the most despicable men that I think I've ever known in my life, Frank Rizzo. And Rizzo declared there will be no unrest in Philadelphia. And he was right about that. But I remember a lot of people all that night wandering around the streets and mingling, and then the cops would come in, huge numbers of cops, and break it up. And then they'd go someplace else and they'd break it up again. Answer your question, I was terrified when King was killed. Now I have to say this as well, and I'm being honest with you. I was no great devotee of Martin Luther King in 1968. I remember hearing a lot of people subsequent to that lauding and reciting their allegiance to him, almost their obeisance to him. I wasn't one of them.
Yeah, a whole lot.
Because in 1968, I was thinking more Walt Palmer, or the brother that was starting some stuff in Camden, New Jersey. I was thinking Ron Karenga out in Los Angeles. I was thinking more Stokely, and I was thinking maybe this nonviolent thing ain't really the way to go. Now, I wasn't convinced that it wasn't, but I wasn't sure that Martin's way was the way to, the kinds of things that we wanted to have. So I wasn't, again, concerned to the point of, great angst or whatever. But, and partly because, but what I was rather, was terrified.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what was going to come next. It was a fear of the unknown.
Probably, let's lighten this up a little bit, shift gears.
That works for me.
As a great lover of sports, perhaps my favorite all-time basketball team consisted of a guy by the name of Wilt Chamberlain, who was at the center position, Chet Jackson,
Chet Walker.
Chet Walker, and
Walker
Lucius
out of
Jackson,
Providence University.
Hal Greer, Wally Wonder.
Yeah.
The Kangaroo Kid was the sixth man,
Yeah,
Billy
come on.
Cunningham,
Right.
and Matt Gugas was the seventh guy.
Right.
Talk to us
Was
about
Paul
that.
Arizin still with that team back then? Or
don't
had
think
he
he
already
was.
gone? Yeah, he might have already gone. Man, I was a huge 76ers fan. Couldn't stand the Phillies, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, too. Didn't have much truck for the Eagles either. But the 76ers in those days, hell yeah. And the largest reason was, of course, well, actually there were three. There was Chet, there was Hal, and there was Wilt. The fact of the matter is, I have been on the same basketball court with Wilt at Moylan, up at 25th and Diamond. Let me make it very clear that I didn't belong there, right? And it wasn't that I had a whole lot of, I was balling all that much, but it was my five, and he just happened to be there playing around with a whole bunch of different people. Knew Wilt. I don't know too many athletes with whom I have been more impressed. Muhammad Ali, of course, but Wilt Chamberlain, man, was a force of nature back in those days, and his ascension to the 76ers after having come from not the Magicians, the Globetrotters. Remember, he spent a little time with the Globetrotters because he had, contract problems, whatever the case may have been. And I remember him at Kansas when they did not win. I remember when he went to Kansas, and I'm thinking, okay, here's a national champion, right away. I think it was the NIT now. I'm not sure they even had the NCAA tournament. But here's your next national champion. That didn't happen. And I'm thinking, well, what's going on, with this kind of a man? When he went to the 76ers and lit up the entire world, there was no force on earth like Wilt Chamberlain was. Remember when they stopped the dunk for Kareem?
Absolutely.
I was wondering why they didn't do it for him.
We've got about 30 seconds before the break. Settle this eternal argument.
What? Which
Jim Vance is going to do this today.
What?
You got one person to start a basketball team with in the history of basketball, Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain.
Well,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, for so many different reasons. Foul shooting ain't one of them.
That's right. But he did score 100 points in the game.
I
And in
remember
that
that.
game he hit 28 out of 32 free throws.
And all they got is the guy with the one picture with the 100
That's right,
on it,
it
because they
wasn't on
weren't even
television.
covering it.
That's right. Folks, we'll be back with the legendary Jim Vance when we return.
The station reflects our community in all of its diversity. In its programming for news and art and culture, I celebrate this marvelous local resource, Howard University Television. This is Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. I support WHUT because WHUT supports our community.
Become a WHUT member today and let us say thank you. With a generous gift of $50, you'll receive a WHUT color change digital alarm clock. With a $70 gift, you'll receive a WHUT water filtration sport bottle. With a $100 gift, you'll receive a WHUT e-reader holder and membership card granting you benefits like 2-for-1 meals in the local DC area. With a $130 gift, you'll receive a WHUT blanket, matrix cooler, and a WHUT membership card. And with a $190 gift, you'll receive all of the above. Call us today to find out what you'll receive with your generous gift. Join thousands of your neighbors in saying that public television makes a difference in your life. Become a member of WHUT, Howard University Television, today. Please call 1-866-900 WHUT right now.
And there's a rumor circulating that is scandalous.
Oh no. What's that?
And I need to clear it up. I
Okay.
think I know the answer.
Didn't sleep with the president.
Well, here's what I'm going to ask you.
Okay, all right.
How old were you when you first had your first real kiss?
Oh my God. I don't know. Okay, let me be like I'm in a hearing on Capitol Hill. I can't recall.
Welcome back, folks, to the Rock Newman Show. My guest today is Jim Vance. I'd ask you for this until 11 o'clock here today when we wrap this show up. Call your friends, tell them to tune in, and I'd ask you also to support this PBS station. It truly is an asset to the community. We want to continue to survive and thrive, and we do that with your support. Let me go back to Jim Vance. We were still talking sort of about the 60s. We want to kind of quickly go through there. The Vietnam War. If you could talk about your sense of the climate in America during those Vietnam War years, if you could talk about that, and you did something I think you ended up getting an Emmy for. You went to Vietnam 20 years after the war was over. If you can tie those bookends together for me.
I'll try, Rock. I don't know that there were any more dynamic times in America than there were in the Vietnam years, especially in the late 60s. Tell you real quickly, I never even heard of the word Vietnam until 1963. I was in college, and I went back to Ardmore, and I went around the corner to visit a friend of mine, Paul Short, this guy I had grown up with. Paul, when he came out of high school in '59, went into the Air Force. I went to Paul's house, and there was a wreath on the door. And I opened, and I knocked on the door, and his mother came to the door. She was still upset. Paul had been killed in Vietnam. And I remember to this day saying, what? Never heard of Vietnam. This was in '63 when we were not officially in Vietnam. Paul was. He was in the Air Force, went over to Vietnam. We're supposed to be advisors is what we were. Right. So that was my first awareness of it. As the 60s progressed, and more young people began the resistance movement, I found it interesting. Again, back in those days, I was hustling, trying to make a living and trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. One thing I knew, I was not going to Vietnam or anything or anywhere else in the world with U.S. military forces. The reason being, I never got over the fact in 1947, when I was 5 years old, I was putting letters on a truck. It was a 37 Ford panel truck with my father, James H. Vance, Jr. And we were putting on letters on the truck, you know, those stencil things, you dip it in water and then put it on. James H. Vance, Jr. and Son, Plumbing and Heating. And I'm the son, so I'm thinking, you know, look at me now. And I remember he started crying. And my father was a large man and not a wallflower. So to see him cry was terrifying to me. So much so that I didn't ask him why or didn't say anything. I was like, what's going on? Years later, when I was 15, 10 years later, I found out that the reason he was crying that day was because that had been the third time earlier that morning that he had gone to the plumbers union to get a union card, and they denied him. My old man went to WW2 in 1940. December of 1941. December of 1941, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, he was supposed to get out like the next month. Everybody re-upped, of course. I was born January 10th. Father went to the World War II, didn't smoke, didn't drink, you know, clean guy, worked every day. He came home, the worst drunk you ever can imagine in your life. I remember every single night from when he came home in 45 until when he died in 51, every single night, my old man fought the war again. He would scream in bed, and I remember as a little child, I'd go stand at the door sometimes, and he would dive out of bed, you know, and take the fetal position and cover up because it was, you know, whatever, artillery bombardment. And he ended up dying from cirrhosis of the liver and DTs, delirium tremors, which I think is probably among the worst ways that any human being could probably die. I was convinced that from that experience in 1947, when this honorable citizen of this United States of America who had went to save the world from Hitler and all of that fascism, I was convinced, because I was a teenager, that they killed my father, that the Army killed my father. I remember to this day, when I turned 18 in 1960, I had 2 uncles that I knew I couldn't whip. I thought I could take the others. But there were 2 I knew I couldn't whip, and they put me in a car and they drove me to the Selective Service office, where you had to register back. You had to draft. So I had to register for the draft. They drove me there under the threat that and walked in with me, that if I didn't sign the paper, they were going to kick my natural black ass. And they meant it. And so I signed. But I had a bag, like a whole bunch of other white boys, you read about it all the time, had bags up in the closet that if their number came up, they were going to Canada. I had a bag. I wasn't thinking Canada, I was thinking Jamaica, but it's too cold up there. But I had a bag that was packed because I was not going to go to the war. So I was already anti-war, but not for the political reasons that most of the people in America were.
Extremely personal.
Very personal reasons. To hell with the United States Army, and this is a stupid war. Plus, not only did they kill my father, they killed my boy, Paul Short. So I wasn't going to go, but I was fascinated by the energy of the anti-war movement. And I remember when I came here in '69, one of the things that I loved most, I didn't know anything about journalism, but I was fascinated to learn. And one of the things I loved most about being in Washington in 1969 was every single day there was something fascinating going on, because if you remember then, you had the war, you had the civil rights movement at its height, you had feminism, which just had started, and you had I remember covering the very first Earth Day, which started the whole environmental movement. So I was very much against the war, fascinated by the energy that came from the youth movement, if you want to call it that, against the war, and was also convinced that the war sucked.
Speaking of that energy, probably the most famous conscientious objector to any war
My hero.
was a guy
My
by the
second
name
hero.
of Muhammad Ali. And I wanted to ask you, as someone growing up in Philadelphia, where was Smoking Joe Frazier territory, who were you rooting for?
Are you kidding
And when
me?
Ali stood up and said, I ain't got nothing against them Viet Cong,
Yeah, because they ain't never called me a nigga.
they ain't
Remember
never
that?
called me
They
a
never,
nigga.
no Viet Cong ever called
Come
me a
in,
nigga.
right.
Yeah. I mentioned my grandfather's my hero. Muhammad was number 2. And it was Joe Frazier's town. I will never forget the one day on 52nd Street, which was kind of like the major boulevard in West Philly, black part of West Philly. Muhammad Ali came down the street in a big old, what would they call it? The Lincoln, not the Lincoln, but the Oldsmobile 88, a convertible with
88,
porthole.
98.
No, was it Olds 98?
Yeah,
Is
that
that
was-
what it
that
was
was the
by
big
then?
one. That
I
was the
don't
big one,
remember.
that's right.
He came down the street, the top was down.
Yeah.
He stopped at the corner of 52nd and Market Street, and everything stopped. This was 60. He had just declared himself, I'm not going to the Army, and they told him, we're taking, okay, then you're going to die, one way or another. And I mean, everything stopped. I think the L train stopped when they saw that it was Muhammad Ali. Joe Frazier never got that kind of celebration in Philadelphia, which was his town. Tell you a real quick story. I'll never forget the day Ed Bradley and I were in a bar in South Philadelphia, and this guy came in, a white guy, and he was trying to sell $250 shares in Joe Frazier. That's when they were building that consortium, remember, in the
Clover
early
Lake.
days?
Consortium was called Clover Lake, yes.
Clover Lake,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
This guy was selling $250 shares, and both Bradley and I thought so little of Joe Frazier. It's like, I ain't buying $250, which then was a fortune, $250 for that Georgia mule?
Yeah.
No. So anyway, Muhammad in Philadelphia, even though it was Joe Frazier's town, was the man. Can I tell you a real quick story about Muhammad? Why he was my hero?
Please.
I'll never forget my first job at Channel 48 in Philadelphia. It was 1968. I started in March. This had to be April. I was in the newsroom. They said they still called him Cassius Clay, because white people, remember, didn't want to give up that Muhammad thing.
Right.
Were resistant to that. Cassius Clay is coming to town, but instead of, he was on a train coming from New York. There were 2 stations in Philadelphia. One's called North Philadelphia Station. The major one is called 30th Street Station. He's not getting off at 30th Street because he doesn't want all the crowds. He's getting off at North Philadelphia Station. We just found out. We want you to go there and meet the train and get an interview with Cassius Clay. And after arguing, it's Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
After that argument, then I said, okay, 10:30 at night or something like that, that the train was coming in. I was at that station platform all by myself, and I'll never forget. It was like in a movie, man. There was one light that was still working at the station. The train came in. Muhammad, Bundini, and a couple other guys, you know, his entourage, got off the train, scared to death. I was scared to death and utterly almost paralyzed with the thrill of seeing Muhammad Ali. Here's why. Muhammad was born one day after me. Isn't he January 11th? I'm January 10th, 1942.
17th, I think. 1
It's
week.
1 week then.
1 week, yeah.
After me, something. That's my peer.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
He's
yeah.
representing me.
That's right.
So he got off the train, and I found the courage to go say, Mr. Ali, you know, I'd love to, you know, take a minute with you. Please, I'll only take 30 seconds of your time. Bundini, I remember his elbow.
Yeah.
Get out of the way. Come on, champ. Come on, champ. You know, but
Yeah.
he never said anything once. Come on, champ. Come on, champ. And Muhammad said, Bundini, go away. Come on, man.
Yeah.
And we went and sat on the bench. It was him, me, and my shooter.
Classic.
And all the other guys were
classic
standing
Ali.
over there. I asked him for 30 seconds, just the honest to God truth, I'm going to tell you. He gave me at least 15 minutes. It might have been more.
Yeah.
Who was counting?
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And we, you know, I got the interview out of the way like that. And we just started talking then about life and, you know, being a black man in America. And that is when he dropped the pearl on me. I have never forgotten it. He said, because I was asking him about, you know, aren't you angry? Don't you want to hurt somebody? Aren't you afraid about, you know, the prime of your life is disappearing? And I'll never forget, Muhammad leaned over and said, here's what an old man told me one time. Man can never know if he's a man until he's tested and tried. Yeah. I'm being tested, I'm being tried, but I'm a man. I'll never forget that.
He's your hero. And
Without
that
a
means
shadow of a doubt.
That since he's your hero, that means I cannot resist what I'm about to do right now.
What's that?
This is the legend of Cassius Clay, the most beautiful fighter of the world today. He talks a great deal and brags indeedy of a muscular punch that's incredibly speedy. The fistic world was dull and weary. With a champ like Liston, things had to be dreary. Then someone with color, someone with dash brought fight fans a running with cash. The brash young boxer is something to see, and the heavyweight championship is his destiny. The kid fights great. He's got speed and insurance. He's got speed and endurance. If you sign to fight him, you better raise your insurance. All rumble, young man, rumble. He's my hero too.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Can't hit, but you can't
Can't
see.
hit me.
Oh boy.
You just had to do that. You
I,
were waiting
I
for that.
told
weren't
you I could not resist.
All right.
We want to get into your inspiration, motivation for becoming a broadcaster. Obviously a rich part of your story. Let us talk to us.
You know what? It's funny about that because it came after the fact. I had no great desire to be a journalist at all. Didn't much care about it. Okay. In 1967, I was teaching school. My father-in-law and I had bought a gas station. I was detailing cars, and I was, because I had more time, I needed something else to do. I was the distribution manager for the Philadelphia Independent, which, by the way, is the oldest black newspaper in the history of this country, a weekly in North Philly. And on Saturdays, I would go to WHAT AM, which is, we didn't have, we had just gotten the, you know, the little units you put in to get the FM station. But anyway, all the best stations were on AM. And I'd go there on Saturdays. There's a brother named Sonny Hobson, the mighty burner. And Sonny Hobson hated to do, remember the Rip and Read news that you guys had to do on the hour?
Yeah.
Sonny Hobson hated to do that, so he would let me come in and do the news on the hour on Saturdays and or Sundays. Went to a party, friend of a friend of a friend, because I told them I'm getting sick of this teaching thing. They were driving me, they wouldn't let me teach. Love teaching, but they wouldn't let me teach. So I'm thinking, leave me, so go see my friend. At the employment agency, went to the employment agency, there's a point for this story. There's a white woman. which I think mattered. And I went for 2 different applications, didn't like either one. Went back the 3rd time, and she was working at her desk, had her head down. I walked in, never even looked up at me, Rock. And I said, is there anything else that you have that I can consider? Without looking, she's going through these papers and says, no, I don't have anything. Well, wait a minute, there's a UHF station getting ready to start a news operation. Then she said the magic words, but you don't know nothing about that. And then she kept going. And just like that, 'cause I was offended.
Yeah.
Who are you to tell me what I might consider?
Yeah.
And how dare you, say you don't know nothing about that. As if to say, get the hell out of my office, nigga, which was basically what she was saying. Took the application, went for the job, had no clue what I was doing, somehow or another got the job. My news director, this was in 1968 I started, my news director said to me 6 months after I started, 3 months, I'm going to bet you $100 that in 6 months you will have at least 6 offers from 6 different outfits around the country. I just came from a classroom.
Yeah.
I took that bet.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I want your money.
Yeah.
I had 7 at the end of the 6 months. Came here because I was most impressed with the news director here. Let me tell you a real quick story. I went to CBS in New York, and I went there first because Bradley was there, my boy. He had gone like the year before. He was at radio, WCBS radio. But CBS network called. And I went, and I had this interview with this guy, and I'll never forget this guy, because this is how things were back in the day. Guy said, okay, we want you, but we need you to start for a year on the assignment desk. There was a brother on the assignment desk in this room. I was looking. I said, like him? And they said, yeah. I said, how long has he been here? He said, well, he's been here about 2.5 years now. So why is he still on the assignment desk? Well, we're working him in. And I remember, because this was back when we all had big hair. I think I might even have been wearing the thing with the lion's teeth on it that we had. I didn't wear the dashiki, but I had it in my bag.
Sure enough.
And it's stupid. And I remember, saying to the guy, you are so full of stuff. Because that's a game. He's been there 2 years. You say you want me to do this a year, that's the normal way. It ain't normal. Is that the way you do for white boys? If the guy came in from Minnesota, you're going to, white boy? Came to WRC 1972 when I started anchoring the 6 o'clock show, trying to get the show done, 5:45 one day. Guy comes down the hall, my news director says, here's our new boss from New York, the network. And I look up. It's the same white boy that I told to kiss my black butt at that CBS interview.
Yeah.
I started taking stuff out my drawer and packing it because I know I'm out of here. And he came by and he said, no, go ahead and do the show and then come see me after the show. And after the show, I went in and I had my stuff in the bags. I said, yeah, how soon do you want me out the door? And the dude said, I don't want you out the door, but I want you, because he said, 1, you were right. What we were doing was crap. But number 2, you got to understand that in this business and in this life, be careful what you say to people, because you'll probably see them again. Another really good lesson that I got.
Yes.
So, I had no great inspirations or any other kind of thing. But before I took this job, I would go to New York every weekend for like 2 months, and Bradley and I would hang out. He was working on weekends, the radio.
Those of you who don't really know, he's talking Ed Bradley, 60 Minutes, Ed Bradley.
The late Ed Bradley.
Yeah.
We would ride around, and because I'm like, what do I do? And he would, this is, I don't know what you do on TV, but this is what you do here. So his devotion to his job, because Bradley just came out of a classroom as well, just like I did. His devotion to his job, his attention to detail, his overcoming his fear of what am I doing here and do I really belong here and that whole kind of thing was inspirational. But I got to tell you, so was David Brinkley. And if I'm going to mention anybody of having an influence, it would be David Brinkley, who was one of the most decent men I've ever known in my life. And I will never forget, I went to the cafeteria one day when I started, and he was in there in the morning. And I said, you got a minute? He said, yeah. We sat down, and I said, I need some advice from you. You got to tell me, every single time the camera goes on, I'm terrified. I want to pee. I'm so scared.
Right.
David is sitting there. I remember he was eating an omelet. And David said, well, Jim, I'll tell you the truth. He talked that funny way.
Absolutely.
The day comes, the light goes on, and you don't get nervous, get the hell out of the business. Ham and the jelly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that it? And that was it. But anyway, watching him taking note of his commitment to task and his enthusiasm about it after all of those years that he had already been in the business was inspirational to me.
You know, I am getting, and I'm sure you're well aware of this signal.
What? Oh, that one?
I'm getting that signal, and what this means is that this is part one of a two-part interview because there is so very much more for us to talk about.
I normally ignore them.
Really?
My wife is over there. Kathy's over there. Kathy used to do that to me all the time. She's my producer. Vance, wrap it up. She's in my ear. It's like, I'm out here.
I
It's
had a
my mic
couple
now.
of conversations with Kathy this week, and she said you ignored
she's over there
quite
now.
a bit of her good advice.
There's plenty of that. That was my mistake, too.
Well, I want to thank you so very much for joining us, and I'm really serious. We need to finish up on part two.
I look forward to it.
That
I look
is-
forward to it. Rock, you call, I respond.
Thank
I mean
you
that
so much.
sincerely. Good to see you, bro.
God bless you.
All right.
All right.
Is that an hour?
Hello, I'm Congressman Elijah Cummings. I salute WHUT for providing news and public affairs programming that uniquely represents, engages, and informs viewers. Whether it's local, national, or world events, WHUT keeps you connected to the issues of the day. Please support WHUT by calling the number on your screen. Thank you.
Become a WHUT member today and let us say thank you. With a generous gift of $50, you'll receive a WHUT color change digital alarm clock. With a $70 gift, you'll receive a WHUT water filtration sport bottle. With a $100 gift, you'll receive a WHUT e-reader holder and membership card granting you benefits like 2-for-1 meals in the local DC area. With a $130 gift, you'll receive a WHUT blanket, matrix cooler, and a WHUT membership card. And with a $190 gift, you'll receive all of the above. Call us today to find out what you'll receive with your generous gift. Join thousands of your neighbors in saying that public television makes a difference in your life. Become a member of WHUT, Howard University Television, today. Please call 1-866-900-WHUT right now.
We announced the results of the National Assessment of Education Progress. The District of Columbia was #1.
Explain your position, the name of the football team that comes after Washington.
I think people recognize that, first of all, change is inevitable, and it's time for a change with this name.
Folks, welcome back. And the legendary Jim Vance has agreed to extend the time here. So let us continue with part two today. We don't have to wait. Here's what I want to do.
Where'd you get that?
I just got this photo.
Where'd you get that? Oh, my God.
I just got this photo from Don and Ron Baker, the photography twins.
The notable.
This is a shot of Jim Vance
Good Lord.
at the Foxtrot.
Oh, Foxtrot, yeah, man, back in the day. Look how slim and trim. Look at all that hair. Look how dark it is. My goodness.
Now, when you're in the Foxtrot, like when you're in Washington, D.C., and you're at the Foxtrot, you're really
Now you're in Washington,
you're
D.C.
representing now.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Oh, I remember it so well,
you know,
man.
I also can't resist doing this. When I went out on social media to talk about you being my guest today, one of the surprising things, there's a whole lot of folks talked about how you're their all-time favorite broadcaster, talked about your commentaries, talked about the impact that you've had on this community. But I got a lot of inbox messages referring to you as a sex symbol.
Oh, come on, man.
I could not resist.
Hey, maybe then.
No,
But good, that's 40 years ago,
They're talking
man.
about
Come on.
now, and if I had my cell phone here, I'd show you a couple today that talked about. She said, "Caramel fine is he, eye candy. Oh yes, he is."
Caramel?
So that's at 72. Congratulations. So now you're here in Washington D.C. Let's talk about there's a bunch that I want to run through.
Okay.
George Michael.
There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about George Michael. We spent 28 years together. I have never in my life ever known anybody that was a harder worker than George Michael was, nor anybody more committed to excellence than George. George drove people crazy. George was also crazy himself. There's a hole in a wall outside the studio at NBC that's still there with the word George's hole over it, because he didn't get a cue or something one time in one of his shows and they cut him off or whatever, and he left the studio and kicked the wall and put this big hole in the wall. That was George. But George was the kind of guy, you couldn't have a better friend and you couldn't have a worse enemy than George Michael. But more, and the memory that I will treasure the most is of George as a totally committed, a man who was totally committed to his task. And I wish that some of George's energy and that kind of commitment could somehow be put into the milk or the water of the juice of every child in America today to understand and appreciate how important that is.
He revolutionized how sports.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
With the highlights, absolutely.
Even before ESPN, George was the first ESPN.
Yeah.
And I remember when they started erecting satellites outside the station, and I was wondering, what are they and what are they there for? Are we, trying to get in contact with an alien force or whatever? Yeah. The alien force was George, who was seeing the future like nobody that I ever knew.
Love him or like him, he has been a central figure
For sure.
on the landscape of Washington, D.C. for many, many decades now. I speak of Marion Barry.
My man. I remember the first time I saw Marion Barry, I swear to God, it was right after I got here. There was a demonstration on 16th and not far from here, 16th Street. Can't remember exactly what it was, but here comes this incredibly handsome dude.
Extraordinarily charismatic.
Very much so, with this dashiki on and a bush. I remember looking at his, man, I was thinking, I want mine to look like that. Who came out and directed the activity of the crowd on that day. A couple weeks, months, whatever it was later, I was in Pride down at 16th and U. And there was Marion with, I can't remember all the other people's names, organizing. And it was at that point, the charisma I saw on 16th Street, the organizational skills and the brilliance of his mind
Intellectual,
is what
absolutely.
came to fore when I went down Pride that first time. And then followed him in the intervening years, of course. And can say that I don't know that I've ever known a more skilled, consummate political force than Marion Barry. The man knows. I watched him at forums, political forums for elections in Lincoln Heights, and I watched him in Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
Same guy.
Yeah.
Same guy. He didn't change up for the audience down here and the audience up there, but the message resonated across all the platforms. Also, one of the most tragic figures on the face of the earth. Demons with which I have some familiarity myself. That demonic forces, the kind that diminish or cause to disappear the best part of any man or any woman who becomes a victim to them. And it's tragic to see the effects of it, especially as it regards his physical health. It makes me almost want to cry now to see Marion, who can, you know, he walks with such great difficulty. He's got difficulty with every other kind of thing. But I don't know, let me say this. I am grateful that I know Marion Barry. I am grateful that I was able to watch the arc of his career. I'm not grateful for the downside, but I'm grateful for watching the arc of the upside. May I say one more thing?
Sure.
I don't know anybody who has done more for people of color, black people, in Washington, D.C. than Marion did. I don't know anybody anywhere who was a greater force in creating a middle class than Marion was. One of the things that I have always had a problem with is that when Marion went down, how few of the so many people that he took up that wouldn't stand for him then and see to it that he didn't have to run for political office anymore.
Jim,
Marion doesn't need to run for political office. He needs to be on a consultant.
When we talk about Marion and the tragic side, now I just got another one of those
things?
producer signals, but that's 5 minutes. So now we got 5 minutes to wrap here.
We can do this quick.
You said he had frailties of which you were familiar.
More so, quite
And
so.
Jim Vance had dark days.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about those darkest of times?
Yeah. It's actually kind of Dickensian in that they were, in fact, the worst of times, but maybe the best of times subsequent to that. Let me try to explain. 79 to 87 is when the worst times was. I experienced a level of depravity, the likes of which I didn't know was possible. And I experienced a moral degradation that I could not and never have believed was part of my life. It was all because of cocaine. When I talk about the upside of it is what I learned from that experience. And what I learned was so very, very much. The part that lingers the most is the effect of what my addiction had on the people closest to me, to Kathy, to my kids, to my coworkers who knew something was going on and watching me fall, and they couldn't do anything about it.
I don't think I'll be talking out of school to say, when you mention your wife, Kathy, she's doing a book about the impact that the person who is the user has on those immediately around them.
The Other Side of Addiction is the kind of a working title now. To her credit, when Kathy decided that she needed to write this book, she asked me, you know, you got a problem with this? And I was like, no, I salute you, congratulate you, support you in every way I possibly can, which I do. There's kind of an untold story. I mean, addicts suffer, and you know, we read all kinds of accounts of the suffering and the depravity that I talked about before. I'm not sure that what people who love an addict suffer isn't worse. Because they're helpless. Because in the final analysis, not final analysis, in the end, addicts begin to recover, and I consider myself an addict in recovery. But addicts who begin to recover and who hold on to their recovery do so by their own action. If your child is an addict, you can do everything possible to help that person. But it's only when that person hits his bottom, her bottom, whatever the case may be, or maybe gets drugged along that bottom, that the decision comes. In the meantime, it's hard to comprehend the utterly devastating sense of helplessness, hopelessness, fear. Kathy used to worry when the phone would ring.
Yeah, of course.
If it was somebody, you know, that I'm in jail, I'm dead, it's a hospital, it's my boss saying, you know, he ain't coming back no. I mean, the suffering of the loved one of the addict is unspeakable, and I salute her and celebrate her on trying to make that point.
We both very strongly support the idea that the Washington's football team should change its name.
Without a
I
shadow of
thought
a
that
doubt.
your commentary on that subject hit it between the eyes, perhaps like none other. I have seen. I want to congratulate you for that. And as we wrap up here,
This time for real.
this time for real, I want you to think about something that we don't want to happen for a long, long time.
What's that?
But what do you want on your tombstone?
You know what? That's easy. You can ask. She'll take. I told her years ago. I want on my tombstone a few words. 5 words. It was a hell of a party. That's what I want on my tombstone. Because that sums it all up for me. I have so thoroughly enjoyed this life, every single day of it. When you wake up in the morning, Rock Newman, don't you wake up with a sense of anticipation about the day ahead of you? That's what I do every morning too. And I'm looking ahead to many, many more days of waking up with a smile on my face so that when I am gone from here and they put that up there, it will speak the truth. It's been one hell of a party. And I'm glad that you were at the party with me, my
Jim
brother.
Vance, I can't thank you enough
Thank
for
you,
sharing
Rock.
that party with us
All
here
right.
at WHUT.
My
Folks,
man.
that wraps us for today. Tune in the same time 1 month, the first Saturday of each month in April, May, and June. We'll be bringing you very interesting and entertaining program. We thank Jim Vance once again. God bless. See you next time.